very easy for staff to say, well, you're not, because staff, whatever you do, whether you're really nice, really horrible, really annoying, whatever you are, I think staff don't like you one way. A lot of the time, it's difficult to please staff. However, I do think that as an owner, there's a couple of things that I feel quite strongly about as an owner, and that is that you maintain a level of professionalism, at all times, regardless of what's going on in your personal life. And I had to learn this a lot throughout my time owning a business, because you do go through many ups and downs in personal life, whether it's a divorce or somebody's poorly in your family, whatever it may be. And yes, you are still human, but I feel how you would want a member of staff to come in and conduct themselves when things are going on at home, or their boyfriend's cheated or something, or their girlfriend's cheated, whatever it may be. But I feel like you need to always maintain this poise as an owner with your staff, with the humans element to it, of course. But I think that is very tricky for a lot of owners to do. Very quickly can they become friends, and then for me, I don't get me wrong, when I first started the business, I made so many mistakes with staff, and throughout it I probably did as well, but I learned that there was a line and a boundary, and I eventually, that's also there to protect you.
Yes, in some respect. I think also if you have the structure right, and if you have your processes and procedures in place, and if you feel that the business is solid, you've got something to fall back on. But as an owner, what we're finding is the frustration that they might have with a staff member, or sometimes when we're going through a bit of financial difficulties, we've seen it particularly on that level, where we just, they want this and they constantly want this, and there's an element of blaming the teams or blaming everything else around them, so their communication is not right, and the procedures are out of the window, or they're reinforced in a way that are so unhealthy, it doesn't even motivate the team anymore. So when we're talking about leading by example, is if you, like you said, if you want the team to follow your lead and follow that example, you've got to be very much an even kind of steady Eddie person, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You can't. I think what some teams struggle with is if you have, and again, we've worked with people in the past, and I think you can see if the owner is, or the manager is, one day they come in and they're high and everything's brilliant, and then the next day they're in this mood that you can't predict. And as a member of the team, if you don't know what you're going to get with the owner or the manager, that's a really nasty environment to work in. It's not enjoyable. And even though you may go over and above and do things when you're in a good mood, but when you're not and the team suffers, it's just that up and down. If you want a good, productive, operating team that and behind your reasoning for doing things, behind your business, then, and of course there's always going to be stressful times. I mean, I used to say sometimes to the team, sorry girls, I might be a bit ratty today, I've got X, Y and Z on, but just, nothing's due. And maybe that's not always right, but I think if I knew something was going on and I might come across as a little bit tight that day, I'd just say.
I think that's not a bad thing, because you be more transparent, isn't it, to the team. Look, today I'm having a bit of a down day, or I've got a few things going on. I don't think it's bad. I think the team as a leader can see the leader a little bit more vulnerable. I think that's okay. But if that vulnerability is every single day and then is pulling the team back down, then you've got to ask yourself, what team culture am I building? If I'm building any team culture whatsoever, because it's depending on my moods rather than anything else. But I am thinking of a manager that I've done management leadership program with this particular manager, and it's a fairly big team, with about 11, and the owner who's put the manager on their leadership program, wanting to really grow this manager. There is definitely a difficulty for this manager to lead because the owner is making decisions that are kind of going against the manager sometimes.
Yeah.
And the manager bluntly asked me, well, what do I do in this case? What can I do? Because the owner comes and decides this, and actually I've told them that. And I was like, well, sometimes, especially as a manager, you can't control certain element of the decision making from the owner. So you do need to pick and choose your battle. You need to and maybe go back to the team and say, look, this is what's going to happen now. And you can't be responsible for absolutely everything that the owner wants to do or their mood. You can protect to an extent, but you can't do everything.
No, and also I think that as an owner, if your manager is having to protect the team from you as an owner as well, then that's the problem.
Yeah.
I think.
But are you aware of it if you're an owner?
Well, I know, and I don't know if you always are.
So my view to her was very much, look, all you can do as a leader of the team, all you can do is sit down with the owner, present facts without an element of you being kind of judgmental, because you're just presenting fact. There's no opinion. I think that, or I believe that, that's an opinion. Then that becomes personal to the owner, and then you're going to have a battle on your hand because the owner's already going to be like, well, So if you present facts, this is the facts, this is what's happened with the team, this is the effect that it had. What do you want me to do about it? Then the ball is in the owner's court. You've done your job because you've been very clear to the owner of what's happening, and then now it's down to her. You can't be responsible for everything. And funny enough, with this particular manager, she realized when she had the first conversation with the owner that actually she'd never had such conversation. So the behavior of the owner was allowed because no one dared saying anything.
Yeah.
And she said to me, as soon as we discussed and everything else, she was mortified that people felt that way. And I was very clear cut. I wasn't personal to her. I was very professional, again, matter of fact. These are the facts. And it went better than expected. And sometimes we think it's going to be worse.
I know. And I think from an owner's point of view, I get it that the pressures are huge.
Of course it is.
As an owner.
Especially if you're struggling as well a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But ultimately, you don't have a business without a team.
Yes.
And I think if things are going wrong with a team and it's happening quite a lot, or you're not happy with the team as an owner, but I think sometimes it's time to sit down and reflect on how you've created what is the team culture and what is your structure, and reflect on why, because it's not always the team. It might not always be the team.
Yeah, I agree.
They might be a good team, but the management of them's not right. It could be your manager, it might not be you, or it could be you as the owner. It depends your setup. It depends on the setup. It could be their senior, who knows? But
it could be a flossy that's just stirring the pot. But you need to be aware. I think you need to be open to perhaps a different perspective on how to manage the team. But when you say, you're not a business without a team, I think there are single owners out there.
Unless you're a single owner.
But that's still, you still need to lead the business. And we're seeing it when we're coaching single owners, without a team. We're seeing their mood perhaps with the client. So they're taking it perhaps on the client journey. That's one way. But then I was talking to someone not long ago, I'm so tired on this Friday. Everyone wants a Friday appointment, so I'm doing 8 hours instead of my normal 6. Well, you've chosen to do those 8 hours. Yeah. Why are you doing that?
Don't moan to the client
about it, or don't make them feel that you're in charge of your diary. And then when you look back at how this particular owner is functioning, then that leading by example is not being met because she's so disappointed with her day on the Friday. So it's got to be definitely a reflection on who you are as an owner, and are you really leading by example. Perhaps it's even asking the team if you've got one, or asking right
getting
person.
some feedback and well, do you remember we did that
Yes.
download, didn't we, of actually saying to your team, and I mean it can be anonymous from the team's perspective, but asking them on their thoughts. And actually we did it really, I mean it's for the managers, but you might not have a manager, it might be direct owner to team. To actually say, you know, what they think works, what doesn't work, and actually sometimes a bit self-reflection is not a bad thing.
Thank you for joining us. We really enjoy sharing our thoughts on various topics. If you have a burning question, simply comment below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button to keep up to date with each new episode.